this 33. 1, 2, 3, and.
For me, this show is a love story, both between two women, between Hilma and Anna Castle, who was in real life her partner in spiritualism and in painting, and for a while her partner in life. It's about this romance between a woman and her creativity and her spirituality. There's this arc of romance between Hilma and the spiritual practice that leads to this creativity, to making this art, and her relationship to the work in general. She was trying to do something really bold, which was create work that was engaging with spirituality, with these overarching mystical universal truths, right? And not limiting herself to what her very classical education in art had taught her.
In addition to Hilma challenging gender roles in terms of stepping out into a male-dominated field, she also, in her spiritual work, depict these two poles of male and female. And in the work, it's often problematized and kind of they're swirling together, and there is no necessarily rigid binary between those two poles, even though these become sort of archetypes in her work. It's not a perfect binary.
What happens in this show, and what I'm very interested in as a writer, is what happens when your very high vibe, non-cynical, very sort of like optimistic view of capturing these beautiful spiritual truths then has to meet the real world and has to come down and interact with the world of humans and rules and expectations and society. That's the very beautiful, like, first blush of romance, is like you and this practice that you don't quite even understand, but you don't need to understand. You can't explain it. You don't need to explain it. To be making the first abstract art. No one had ever seen anything like this before. And of course, you know, the spoiler alert to everything is 100 years later, her retrospective was the most attended show at the Guggenheim ever.
So the mythology around it was that, and this part is true, that Hilma was really reverential of time.
One of the amazing things that's happening is that when we started working on this show, there was very little that was known about Hilma. There were some essays written and some biographical material. And as we've worked on the show and rewritten it, it's turned out that a lot of that original material wasn't true. So actually, the revision process has become about what is true biography, what is just some sort of myth we've built up around a person. So I do hope that people go and find out more about Hilma's work. And I hope they have been inspired to think about the role of this sort of beautiful unknown idea of creativity in their own lives. That would make me really happy. If you know, we created a space to facilitate that kind of access.
Step up the spiral now.
Don't hub now.
Timeless spirit of self-ascent, now to the level of love.
The show, to me, has a lot of joy in it and a lot of welcoming energy. I don't want to spoil too much, you know, where the show goes. I want it to be a surprise as much as it can be for people. But very quickly, the audience becomes implicated or invited in in a way that I hope feels expansive and generous and like an opportunity.